So you found a sub-2 deal, found a buyer, wrapped it, put $14,000 in your pocket, kept the deal, and now are making $800 a month cash flow. Okay, so Carolyn and Myron, great to meet you guys in person finally. We spoke on the phone. In fact, people that are watching this may recognize, maybe not, but we did in the Creative Finance series I did with Pace, one of the videos we did, he's like, hey, let me call Caroline and Myron and let's walk through a situation they're in. Pace called it like Deal Doctor. And we talked on the phone for a little bit and kind of tried to help you through, I forget what it was, but it was a deal. And that's in that playlist that we created where we talked all about creative finance. And you guys are like all in creative finance and doing some amazing things with the increase in interest rates. It's really made creative finance like that much more of a viable investing strategy, right? Because now there's a way to get into these deals using existing low interest debt, leverage that debt into new deal structure. And so very exciting, whether you're keeping those deals or you're wholesaling them or flipping them, it just opens up this great opportunity in real estate in 2023 and beyond probably. So what is it about creative financing that you guys love so much? Why is it a big part of your strategy now?
What's not to love? Just the accessibility, especially from very beginner stages of real estate. And we entered into like the, I guess, bigger pockets. Like that was our first introduction. And the BRRRR method,
real estate.
Yeah.
And
Jerry Norton, of course.
Yeah.
And like the BRRRR method isn't a very friendly beginner method, right? And so we stumbled upon creative finance and we're just like, this checks all the boxes of what we can accomplish. We don't have W-2s and all the things. So like the fastest track to where we want to go.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about that. In fact, we're going to break down a deal that you guys did, which was a sort of complicated deal because it was a wrap. We'll break it down, but a wrap is like next level. That's pretty advanced kind of technique to do. So we'll talk about how you got in that deal with creative financing, how you use creative financing now to exit or to create your back end structure. Yeah. But first, you guys are in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. How long ago did you get started in real estate?
About 2 years ago.
Pretty much on the dot, 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years. And from when you first kind of got started, you're in that learning stage, that education stage. How long until you started to take action and pick up the phone, make offers, talk to sellers?
I'd say at least 2 months or so. We were stumbling through phone calls in the very beginning, but it was very intermittent.
Yeah.
He was watching a lot of I don't know how many hours I watched you.
So many seller
make calls. And
on the phone.
I did that same exact thing.
Yeah.
And, but I didn't really want to flip, but I felt like that was the thing to do.
Yeah.
Right. And so we actually got something under contract and we put down EMD and then didn't like it. So we backed out, lost our EMD, which is fine. That's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But, I think it took us a while to get started to have it's a confidence thing. It's a confidence thing. And we were trying to do it by ourselves. And that honestly was the biggest struggle, is we thought we had to do everything by ourselves.
Versus a community or coaching or support. Is that as opposed to that is what you mean?
Right. Joining a team, having somebody next to us who have done things before and bringing them leads versus us trying to do it all.
Yeah.
So yes.
Totally.
And we realized when we lost our 5K, our precious 5K, that it feels very precious in the beginning stages.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But
on that first contract, you did not get your earnest money back?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that's painful, right? $5,000 earnest money you don't get back. That hurts.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. We had a good little chunk of money saved up to let's dive into real estate. We had no idea what we were doing. And one of our friends at the time was like, you're going to learn either by paying for it or, through education, like you're going to make a mistake and mess up, or you're going to pay for it. That's how you learn.
Yep.
Yeah, that's very true. You're going to pay one way or another. You can pay for coaching and support and mentorship, or you can pay through hard knocks of really messing up. But there's no way around the education, and there's no way around paying for the learning experience. So, sometimes we feel like we can somehow shortcut that. And I don't think we really can, like that's just part of the process.
Yeah. It was a matter of like, not how you're going to lose, but when,
Yeah. When I first started, I was very similar. I didn't really see the value in a good program, mentoring or coaching or education program. I thought I had to just figure it all out myself. And so I made so many mistakes and lost money doing this and that. And when I finally kind of saw the vision for the value in coaching and mastermind and mentorship, then it was like night and day. Like my business really took off. And then I look back and I'm like, man, I would have either saved or made so much more money had I saw that earlier and invested in that earlier. So that's like one of my big regrets in the beginning years, was really not valuing good coaching, good mentorship. So like everyone that's on this call right now, I mean, I have tremendous respect. And for you guys, seeing the value in that, because you can't skip everything. You're going to still have to go out there and make mistakes. But there's a lot of things that you could avoid that are unnecessary mistakes, I think, if you can follow somebody who's kind of been in the path you're trying to go and learn from them. So I'm kind of preaching to the choir, because whoever's watching this, obviously sees value in education, but there's something to be said about that. That's really important. So I'm glad you guys kind of caught that vision, and it's been a tremendous help for you to grow your business.
100%. Yeah.
So let's talk about that first single family deal you did. That was creative finance.
Sure.
In the beginning with that deal, was your intent to try to figure out how to keep it, or was it to flip it? Which one did you want to do when you first got that deal?
I think we decided we were initially going to wholesale it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We were going to
Because
wholesale
we had no
it.
idea what the heck we were doing. Yep.
Yeah. Which by the way, you can wholesale creative deals for a premium. You guys probably know that. We've talked about it quite a bit on my channel, and even some of our students here that are on right now see that as well. Like you can get this creative deal if you package it, if the entry fee is fairly low, if the interest rate's good, if it cash flows, then those deals you can wholesale like hotcakes, and people will pay way over what you could get for just a straight cash deal. And so there's nothing wrong with that. At some point, though, it makes sense to start to think about, well, what if I could figure out how to take this deal down? What if I could keep this? What if I could get all the upside of appreciation, depreciation, cash flow, and all the things?
When we wanted to wholesale it, and it was a rural area in Virginia. It's about an hour north of Richmond. And it's a gravel driveway, right?
In a nice little community.
It's a nice community, but we took it to the people that we knew in that area, and they're like, okay, assignment, we'll give you $4,000, $2,000. And it was almost like a slap in the face, because I'm like, no, I want like 15. I want like 20.
Yeah.
And I just had that stuck in my head.
On an assignment, you're saying, if you wholesaled it.
Yeah.
And I just felt like people, because that's our first deal ever.
Yeah.
Like closing it.
You get emotional on those first deals, emotional. Right?
Well, this wasn't just your first deal. It was a creative, but it was your first deal altogether. First deal. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. How did you find that deal? Because that was virtual. You're in Texas, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy. The guy, I was going on to like Facebook groups, YouTube videos, whatever I could find, and just saying, I will help you with foreclosure. I will help you with foreclosure. I didn't know actually all the things about foreclosure that I do now, but it's just generating leads, right?
Yeah.
I will help you. He called me through Facebook. He like found me on Facebook and called me through Facebook. He says, hey man, I have a house in Virginia. I live in Dallas. I moved to Dallas. I'm like,
okay. Was this somebody in your friend group, or like what on Facebook? Where on Facebook?
He was in a Facebook foreclosure group.
There's a group for foreclosures.
Yeah.
It was like probably 20 different foreclosure groups.
I did not know that. That's really interesting.
People just
Now
go
you
on
know.
there for help and like, hey,
Oh,
and it's kind of quick, first come, first
Oh,
served.
I bet. Yeah. That's a really good nugget there. There's Facebook groups for people in foreclosure looking for advice and help and so on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to actually, I've asked the admins if I can buy their groups. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Imagine having first shot at whoever comes in there.
Yeah.
So you put a post in there. Hey, I can help you in foreclosure.
Yeah.
Someone responds to you, happens to be living in where you live in Dallas, but they have a property in Virginia.
Yep.
Okay. So then what happens? You start talking about the deal. Yeah.
Well, I was trying to do rapport. So I was trying to build rapport. I'm like, so where in Dallas are you? He goes, I'm at 75 and 635, which is basically where we live. I'm like, do you live near Beltline? He's like, yeah, I live at Beltline. I'm like, dude, I could walk to your house.
Wild.
I could walk to your house, man. So tell me about what's going on. I broke up with my girlfriend. I moved to Dallas. I'm going to teach trucking down here because I'm a truck driver. And me and my girlfriend broke up. She's still living in the house. And it's just after Christmas, I think. It was cold up there. And so I said, what if I just found someone to take over the payments? And he goes, okay. I go, okay.
Because they were behind on payments.
They were actually in forbearance.
Right.
So they were in a period of like accrual. They had arrears, but they didn't have to pay until May of 2022 would be the reinstatement time. So we had like it was kind of a blessing of a deal.
Like 5 months.
Yeah, we had 5 months. Yeah.
So you guys, if you're listening right now, that was during COVID when they let you not make your payments. And the way that forbearance worked was they took the accumulated non-payment and they would tack it on the end. Not always. Sometimes you would have to work out a higher monthly payment or whatever. There were a few different ways. In this situation, they're not making these payments in forbearance. Then what? Did that need all of a sudden paid, or what were they having to do?
So when we initially established relationship with him and got it under contract, he was about $6 or $7 grand behind.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, okay, what do I want to say? Like underwrote it to where that would be our entry fee, like a part of the entry to get
cash at closing to pay that back, to pay that current. Yep.
So just to reinstate it. But we were like, okay, let's try and find a buyer for this. We went through the process of trying to wholesale it and weren't getting the checking the list off of what we would like to see. Right. So we're like, okay, well, we have until May before we have to actually start paying on this mortgage again.
And what month was it during that time? You said Christmas or January?
December. It was December. So we
got a little window of time.
So we put it up, we were going to wrap it. So we're like, we don't know what we're doing. We figured out the sub-2 contract, got that figured out. And we're started marketing it on Facebook for wrap buyers, for like non-qualified buyers.
Yeah. So let's get your wrap in a second. But what was the interest rate on that loan?
I think it's 4.1.
Okay.
So really great interest rate. And then, so you got this low interest rate fixed loan you said about 8, was it, you said 6,000 or how much was it in arrears on the forbearance?
6,800, something like that.
Okay. Was there any other entry fee that would need to be paid? You'd have closing fees. Anything else?
Fees, our assignment.
If you were to wholesale it, there'd be an assignment fee. So guys, when you do subject to, very rarely is it zero out of pocket, sometimes, which is amazing, but usually there's either back payments, there's going to be closing fees. Sometimes there's going to be some cash to the seller. Maybe you offer the seller, hey, I'll give you some cash at closing, and then an assignment fee. So when you add up all of those things that have to be paid at closing to buy that sub-2 deal, we call that the entry fee, right? And sometimes that entry fee could be, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. Usually for it to be a good deal, I found that you want to be, under 25 to 30% of the total investment. In fact, that's a great number to be into the deal if you want to wholesale it, counting the wholesale fee, because that's about what a down payment would be for an investor to buy an investment property. They're going to have to put usually 25, 30% down in most cases. So anyway, your entry fee, not counting your wholesale, if you didn't wholesale, what was your entry fee going to be? Around 10 grand, somewhere around there?
I think it was around 12 or with closing.
No, it's just closing and the arrears.
Okay,
so yeah. When I talked to him, I said, we'll catch up the payments. And he's like, that's fine. As long as you guys just catch up my payments and make the payments. I'm good. So I'm ready to let go of it. I'm ready to just give it to foreclosure.
And he didn't want any cash.
No cash.
Okay. That's great. A lot of times they want cash. I don't know if you guys do this now, but one thing that I try to do is get at least 5,000 to them, even if they're not asking for it. And the only reason why I do that is because I find that if they're going to get something at closing, they're much more motivated to sign things, to show up, to kind of help you get the deal done. Whereas what I found is if they're not getting anything, they're just walking, they drag their feet. It's just hard to work with them.
Yeah.
I found. Now that's not every time, but just something I've noticed. But no cash at closing, no cash for keys. Mm-mm. Okay.
We just caught up his back payments. I mean, it's sort of like he wasn't paying his mortgage.
Yeah.
Right. So that was the kind of out of pocket in his mind.
Yep. Great. So he agreed to that. And then when did you then close on that deal? If this is like around December, January.
Closed in March.
Okay.
Yep.
March.
So it took a couple months to get it closed.
Yeah.
And that 10, 12 grand entry fee, where'd you get that cash?
That's going to go into the wrap part of it.
Okay. So now we have to understand the wrap so you pre-sold your wrap before you bought the sub 2. Oh my gosh.
It's a double close.
Okay. Very cool. So this is getting cooler. I did not know that. So typically what you would do is you'd buy it sub 2, right? You'd pay your entry fee. Now you own it. Then you turn around and do your next play, which would be in this case, to sell it using creative finance. Yep. What you did is while you were under contract to buy sub 2, you pre-marketed and found a buyer to resell it to, and you sold it to that buyer using seller finance and then wrapped the whole thing.
Correct.
Okay. So guys, I hope you're following this. A wrap is really cool. I just did a wrap on a single family in Denver where I bought it for $130, wrapped it for $230. And when I bought it at $130, I had an interest rate of like 4 or whatever it was. And I wrapped it. I resold it for $100 grand more at 9%.
Amazing.
And I got like 20% down or whatever it was. So anyway, let's talk about how you did this. So you've got the contract, you've got a window of time because you're not in a super hurry because they're in forbearance. A lot of times there's a real pressing deadline to close because there's a foreclosure date, right? So in that case, on that one, I had 4 days. They called me on a Friday. I had to fund it by Tuesday. Super fast deal. And so I had to pay the entry fee, buy it, and then market it for sale. So there was a window there where, I'm paying on my sub 2 loan before I find my buyer and resell it. So, but you guys did it where you marketed. So talk about now, you got the contract on the sub 2. Hope everybody's clear on that. About 12 grand entry fee, 4% rate, whatever the monthly payment was. And then you've got that kind of sitting here in escrow, ready to fund. And then you're like, well, let's go see if we can find a buyer now to resell it to. So how'd you find that buyer?
We started marketing on Facebook. Back on
Facebook.
Spanish communities, because there's a great pocket of buyers who they have the money, but they're not qualified to buy. Yep. So marketing in Spanish community groups in the area and just in general, just like the buy, sell, trade groups or,
No agents. Okay. Wow. Yeah. So let's talk about that. I think that's a brilliant idea because like you said, they're Hispanics, typically they're hardworking. They save their money. So they've got cash. They can make the monthly payment that you're going to create for them. but maybe they don't have credit or they can't qualify for a traditional loan. So they make great seller finance buyers, wrap buyers. So, okay. So you start posting on all these different Hispanic Facebook groups in the market of that deal in Virginia.
Yep.
So then what happens?
So we got blown up by a bunch of people who were interested, and
which was surprising because it's Richmond, Virginia. Like, I just didn't think, and it's rural. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So we were getting hit up and we were responding. We had created like a Google form just to kind of filter them a little bit more of like, what do you think you can put down as a down payment? We already had a down payment in mind of what we would like to see, but just to see like the sincerity of who's who. And that filtered out a bunch of people really quick. And it was kind of,
you had a lot of like zero down people or, 5,000 or whatever kind of thing. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So it kind of dwindled off for a little while, and we were getting really like flustered about it. Like we weren't getting all the buyers in that we wanted to see. And so I think we ended up putting it on Zillow.
By owner?
Flat fee.
Flat fee.
Yeah,
okay.
Like a flat, like just list it for us. And that really helped.
A lot of agent calls, but
yeah, I got a lot of agent calls, of course. But I think that's it. In how we ended up finding our wrap buyer. No, actually, we hired another sub-2 student to help us, right?
Yeah, and there's another sub-2 student that has found another buyer out there before in Richmond.
Yeah.
And so we talked to him. He goes, "Hey, I have buyers in my CRM. Let me just talk to them. And if I find your buyer, will y'all give me," I think we gave him like $4,000.
Okay. So he didn't want much. Yeah.
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 So he got paid on an invoice. So that was very easy.
Yep.
Yeah. We were approaching the down, we were getting closer and closer, and we're like, we got to make this work, or we're going to have to try to wholesale it off again.
It was the mindset.
You were saying closer, you're getting closer to the closing on the sub-2.
Yes.
Yeah, so that date's getting closer. You still don't have your buyer.
Yeah.
And again, tell me big picture of the numbers. What was the total entry, the total sub-2 deal? And then the wrap number.
The mortgage was 212 principal.
Okay.
We sold it on a wrap at 265.
Okay. So 212 plus you need about 8. So you're all in for about 220, right? Am I getting that right?
Yep.
And then you sold it on a wrap for, what'd you say? 260?
265.
265. Okay. So you created, there's some equity in there.
Yep.
Okay.
We got $30,000 down.
And then the buyer put 30,000 down.
Yep.
So with 30,000 down, that caught up the arrears, the forbearance amount, and that paid our closing costs, paid our wrap buyer finder, the student, $5,000. And we were left with about a $14,000 check to us.
Yeah. Cash in your pocket.
We got a assignment fee after all out of the deal.
Basically, yeah, in the form of down payment. So guys, let's make sure everyone's clear on this. In order to close the sub-2, they had some entry fee, right? It was around $12,000, which covered their arrears, closing fees, plus another $4,000 to the wholesaler, or I probably bird dog fee. You did it on an invoice, meaning consulting fee or whatever, but that was a cost. So that puts you around, 16,000 or whatever. But since your buyer now put 30,000 down and you kind of wrapped the closing, I'm guessing. So then that down payment from your buyer on the wrap paid all those fees plus put about $14,000, whatever, in your pocket.
Yep.
That's correct.
And then you were left with, so you're paying now on a sub-2 note at 4% on 220. No. What was it? 220, right?
Yeah. Well, with the arrears.
No, 212, I think you said. 212. So you're paying now on 212, but you're collecting on 265. And what interest rate did you put your buyer in?
8 or 9?
I believe it was 8.
I think it was 8%.
So then they're paying 8. So you're collecting 8 on 265 and you're paying 4 on 212. Everybody see the difference? So a wrap means they made a new loan of 265 at 8% over the whole amount. So now what you're doing is you're earning a spread on the first 212,000 of roughly 4%. And then you're earning the full 8% on that, whatever, $40,000 difference or whatever it is, $50,000 difference.
Correct.
And so when you kind of net it all out, what's your cash flow end up being?
$800.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool, right? So
Yeah.
So you found a sub-2 deal, found a buyer, wrapped it, put $14,000 in your pocket, kept the deal, and now are making $800 a month cash flow. So because of the way you structure that, not just zero down, but cash in your pocket and cash flow and depreciation. So you're getting the tax benefit of depreciation, and you're deferring your capital gains because you've created a debt structure. So you're not even paying on the gain that you would had you flipped it for 265. And let's say you netted after closing fees, whatever, 30 grand, you'd be paying capital, you'd be paying ordinary income on that gain, but now you're not, right? So you did all of these really strategic moves here and ended up keeping the property.
Yes, we did.
Very cool.
We're glad
Isn't
we
that
went.
exciting, man. I hope you guys watching this are like, holy cow, that is the coolest thing ever. That's really neat to do a deal like that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry.
We're happy we struggled through it, and that landed as our first deal, and we get to cash flow $800 a month off of it. So
what were some of your big learning experiences through that deal? What was some of the things that you felt like were really, really big takeaways?
All the paperwork initially,
Mm-hmm.
the overwhelming, like, what are we even doing here? We figured it out. We had so much help from the community.
Yeah.
Like, we're calling all these people, like, what do we do? How do, like, every little step of the way.
The insurance.
Yeah.
All things. And so I would just call up another student. We even had Pace on the phone for like 45 minutes talking about how to find wrap buyers.
Yeah.
And he's the one who suggested do a flat fee listing. But or he was saying, I'm sorry, no, what he said was, instead of doing owner or seller finance on Facebook, put rent to own. Because people don't understand seller finance. That's scary. Rent to own, that makes sense.
That's easy. Yeah.
And so
then convert them into seller finance.
Exactly right. So then explain it.
Especially in the Hispanic community, because rent to own is very common for a lot of people, but they can wrap their head around that a little easier. Yeah, that's good advice.
I think the biggest part is reach out for help. Stop trying to do stuff on your own. Yeah.
Did you use a transaction coordinator to help you through all the paperwork, or just learn it yourself?
We had a transaction coordinator come in like halfway through, because it was getting sticky for us, of like, we want to make sure this is done to a T. So they had to jump in the middle when it started getting, like, when we had our buyer and started going through all of that, the wrap side of things. So our recommendation is get a TC from day one. Don't even deal with that mess. So we learned our lesson for sure. Yeah.
Maybe go through one on your own if you want, but even your first one, I tell people all the time, a really good transaction coordinator, that's what they do day in and day out. So they understand all those moving parts. And for whatever they charge, $500, $600 or whatever it is, it's so worth it, because they'll just make sure all the T's are crossed and the dots, the I's are dotted, all that gets done. And they're going to stay in communication with all the parties and, all of that. So that's fantastic. Amazing, you guys. Congratulations on all your success. Yeah. You guys did a 30-unit multifamily in Corpus Christi, creative finance.
Yes.
Yep.
So really cool now getting into multifamily, leveraging the cash flow with multi-unit. And so that's exciting, and just all the things you guys are doing. And I think it's amazing that you guys are sharing in your journey, because this really gives people a lot of hope to see you guys a few years in and really taking off in your business. And that's exciting. That really shows. It's one thing when I sit here and say, oh, you can do this and you can do that. Well, yeah, Jerry, you've been doing it 20 years. But when you guys come in, and this is where you're at in 2 or 3 years, that's very encouraging. That's exciting. Way to go, guys. You're flipping geniuses. You guys are flipping geniuses, because to do a sub 2 wrap, put 14,000 in your pocket and create $800 a month cash flow, that's flipping genius. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, leave a comment, guys, and say Caroline and Myron, you guys are flipping geniuses. Love it.
Love
I'm
it.
totally living a dream right now.
Yeah.